Jacob was a 12-year-old boy with bright, curious eyes and messy brown hair that always seemed to stand on end. His heart was full of dreams, but at school, he often felt more like a shadow than a student. He didn't quite fit in with the other kids. While they laughed and played games, Jacob preferred to sit quietly in the corner, doodling pictures of wild adventures in his worn notebook. He dreamed of exploring vast forests, climbing mountains, and maybe even riding a magnificent horse. In his small town, there wasn't much to distract him from this loneliness. The kids played sports in the park, but Jacob wasn't chosen for teams, often left standing alone while others kicked soccer balls or tossed basketballs side to side. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe. He would watch them from a distance and wish he could join in. But every time he stepped forward, fear held him back. He felt invisible, like a ghost drifting through the halls of his school. His home life was loving but busy. With both parents working long hours at their jobs, Jacob often found himself alone after school. He would wander into the backyard, where the scent of freshly cut grass tickled his nose, and watch as the clouds drifted lazily across the blue sky. In those moments of solitude, he imagined having a friend, someone who could understand him without needing words. One day, as Jacob wandered through town looking for something to do, he stumbled upon a vibrant flyer announcing an upcoming auction at the fairgrounds. Excitement surged through him. Auctions were the talk of the town among kids and adults alike because they were filled with clattering hooves and eager voices bidding for beautiful animals. There would be dogs, cows, and especially horses. Graceful creatures that made Jacob's heart race with longing. The day of the auction arrived with a burst of energy. Jacob stood at the entrance, feeling both excited and nervous as people milled around him. His eyes sparkled as he gazed upon strong stallions glistening in the sun or ponies prancing playfully beside them. There were horses of all shapes and colors. Some were sleek and shiny, while others had unique spots or fluffy manes that bobbed as they walked. But it was amidst this crowd that something unusual caught Jacob's attention. A horse tucked away in a corner, overlooked by everyone else. This horse was not beautiful at all. In fact, he was quite the opposite. His coat was matted and dull, with odd patches that gave him an even stranger appearance. Yet there was something about this horse that pulled at Jacob's heartstrings. While laughter surrounded him as people pointed fingers at the ugliest horse, Jacob felt a fierce protectiveness for this creature who seemed just as lonely as he was. As he stared into Charlie's large brown eyes, he saw not just an ugly horse, but a friend waiting to be discovered. In that moment, Jacob knew he'd have to do something incredible for this horse, who needed love just as much as he did. As Jacob stood there, determination hardened in his chest. This auction might give him something more than just an animal. It might give him a companion to share his dreams with. Little did he know how this decision would change both their lives forever. The day of the auction arrived, buzzing with energy and excitement. Bright banners fluttered overhead as families and animal lovers trickled in, eager to discover the treasures waiting inside the fairgrounds. Jacob stood at the entrance, feeling a mix of nerves and anticipation. The sound of chatter filled the air, mixed with the occasional whinny from horses and the clattering of hooves on pavement. As he stepped inside, he was greeted by a colorful display of animals. The main area was packed with people, all bustling around various stalls filled with everything from fluffy puppies to sleek calves. But what attracted Jacob most were the horses, standing proudly in their pens. There were majestic steeds with shiny coats reflecting the sun, each one more beautiful than the last. They tossed their heads, flaunting their manes like living trophies. The auctioneer's voice boomed through the crowd, announcing various animals for sale. "Next up is a stunning chestnut mare," he cried, his voice rising above the din. People cheered and raised their hands, eager to place their bids. The energy was electric. It felt like a celebration where everyone shared a love for these magnificent creatures. Jacob watched wide-eyed as the first few horses were led into the auction ring. Their powerful legs carried them gracefully while their shiny coats gleamed under the bright lights. He could hear the gasps of awe from other spectators. Each horse had its own unique charm, drawing admiration from those who wished to own them. For a brief moment, Jacob wished he could also have one of those stunning horses to call his own, a friend who would join him on wild adventures. But when he looked at his small pocket of change, that dream felt distant. Just then, a tall man approached him, holding his little girl's hand. "Are you here to bid?" he asked, glancing down at Jacob's hopeful face. Jacob nodded shyly, but quickly looked away, unsure of what to say. The man smiled kindly and tousled Jacob's messy hair before continuing on with his daughter. As the auction continued, Jacob felt both excitement and a twinge of sadness. His heart raced every time a horse was brought into view, but he knew that owning one would take more than just dreams. It required money, something he lacked at the moment. Yet deep inside him stirred an inkling of hope. Perhaps today would bring something unexpected. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted as a collective gasp spread through the crowd when a scruffy horse was led into view. A horse that looked nothing like the elegant beauties that surrounded him. Jacob's heart skipped a beat as he caught sight of Charlie. Despite being dubbed the ugliest horse by everyone else, Jacob felt an inexplicable pull toward him. Though laughter filled the air from people mocking Charlie's unusual appearance, Jacob felt a fierce determination rising within him. He may not have been here for a grand prize or a showstopper. Instead, he was drawn to something deeper, a connection that went beyond looks. In that moment among the beautiful chaos of the auction, Jacob realized he might just find what he had been searching for all along, an unexpected friendship blooming amidst the noise and excitement. As the auction continued, Jacob stood at the edge of the crowd, his heart racing with anticipation. He watched as beautiful horses trotted into the ring, each one more stunning than the last. People around him pointed and whispered in awe, admiring the strong muscles and shiny coats of the magnificent creatures. It felt like a fairy tale where every horse was a prince or princess waiting to be claimed. But then, something unusual caught his eye. A horse that seemed completely out of place. Tucked away in a corner pen, this horse was scruffy and odd-looking, with a coat that was not just dull, but also matted and full of patches. His mane hung limply to one side, and his large brown eyes seemed to hold a world of sadness. The auctioneer called him Charlie, and as he was led into the ring, laughter erupted from the crowd. "Look at that one," someone shouted, pointing fingers. "What an ugly horse." Others joined in with giggles and snickers, making jokes about his appearance. Jacob's heart sank as he listened to their mocking remarks. They didn't see what he saw. While everyone else focused on looks alone, Jacob felt a deep connection to Charlie that began to grow stronger by the second. As Charlie shuffled awkwardly around the ring, turning his head in confusion at all the laughter directed toward him, Jacob sensed something special about this horse beneath his scruffy exterior. He noticed the way Charlie bravely held his head high despite being laughed at. There was a certain strength hidden behind those sad eyes, a strength that resonated with Jacob's own feelings of being misunderstood Why are they laughing? Jacob whispered to himself, feeling angry at how others treated Charlie. Unlike them, he could see past the roughness. He recognized a kindred spirit in this gentle creature who seemed just as lonely as he was. Jacob imagined what it might be like for Charlie, being locked away from love and friendship simply because of how he looked. While others raised their hands to bid on sleek horses with perfect coats, Jacob felt a spark of determination ignite within him. Even though he knew little about owning a horse or how much money it would take to bring Charlie home, he felt compelled to help him escape from this cruel moment. Jacob took a step closer to the ring where Charlie stood trembling slightly under the bright lights. Every laugh from the crowd pierced through him like arrows, but instead of retreating into his shell like usual, he stood firm. With each passing second, his confidence grew as he envisioned all the adventures they could have together, exploring forests and meadows far beyond what anyone could see. In that moment, while laughter echoed around him, Jacob made up his mind. He would do whatever it took to bring Charlie home. He wouldn't let appearances dictate their worth any longer. Together, they would show everyone what true friendship looked like, even if it meant standing alone against a sea of laughter and judgment. This was not just an ugly horse. This was a friend waiting for rescue, and Jacob couldn't wait to answer that call. As the auction continued, Jacob felt a fire igniting within him. The laughter from the crowd only fueled his determination to help Charlie. While others eagerly waved their hands to bid on the gorgeous horses, Jacob stood rooted in place, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew he had to do something, but doubts crept into his mind. Could he really afford to bid on Charlie? Did he even have enough money saved up? He reached into his pocket and pulled out the crumpled bills and coins he had collected over time, his allowance and a few extra dollars he had managed to save from doing chores. It wasn't much, but each coin felt heavy with potential. Jacob glanced toward Charlie, who was still standing awkwardly in the ring, eyes wide with confusion and fear. In that moment, Jacob made up his mind. He would use every last penny he had for this horse. Watching Charlie endure the ridicule of the crowd broke Jacob's heart. He imagined what it must be like for Charlie, standing there alone, feeling unwanted and unloved. A wave of empathy washed over him. Jacob knew all too well what it felt like to be an outsider. He saw himself in Charlie's sad eyes, both of them yearning for connection and acceptance. "Please let me take you home," Jacob whispered under his breath as if Charlie could hear him. He imagined how they would explore together, their own secret adventures away from judgmental eyes. With each thought, determination replaced the doubt that had once clouded his mind. The auctioneer's voice rang out again, calling for bids on a beautiful bay horse that was being led into the ring. The crowd erupted with cheers and applause as people eagerly raised their hands. But Jacob kept his focus on Charlie, who was now being led back toward the pen after receiving no bids at all. "Wait!" Jacob shouted suddenly, surprising even himself. His voice cut through the noise of excitement and laughter surrounding him. Heads turned in surprise as people looked at this small boy standing alone against a sea of bidders vying for beauty rather than kindness. The auctioneer paused and turned to Jacob with curiosity. "Do you want to bid?" he asked, raising an eyebrow at the boy, who seemed so determined yet so small compared to the other bidders. "Yes," Jacob exclaimed, his voice shaking but filled with conviction. "I want to bid on Charlie." Laughter erupted once more from some members of the crowd, but Jacob didn't care. He raised his hand high despite feeling nervous under all those glances aimed at him and Charlie. "I'll give you $5. The auctioneer hesitated for a moment before chuckling lightly and asking if anyone wanted to bid higher on such an interesting horse. But for Jacob, that $5 felt like a mountain of hope. A promise of friendship waiting just beyond reach. As he stood there, heart racing and palms sweaty, he realized this wasn't just about buying a horse. It was about standing up for someone who needed him just as much as he needed them. In that moment of courage, everything shifted for both Jacob and Charlie. Two lonely souls ready to embrace their destiny together amidst a world that didn't understand them. As the auctioneer's gavel struck the podium, the excitement around Jacob surged. The atmosphere hummed with anticipation as families and animal lovers settled down, eager to see which animals would find new homes. Jacob could feel his heart thumping wildly in his chest as he focused intently on the proceedings. It felt like the world around him faded away, leaving only the sound of Charlie's nervous whinnies echoing in his ears. Next up, a beautiful gray stallion, the auctioneer announced, and the crowd erupted in applause. Hands shot up all around Jacob, and he felt a wave of nervousness wash over him. His pulse quickened as several horses were bid on, one after another, their stunning appearances drawing higher and higher offers. He watched with wide eyes as money exchanged hands, feeling both excitement and anxiety stirring within him. Then came Charlie's turn. Jacob held his breath as the auctioneer called for him to be led into the ring. The laughter that followed made Jacob's heart ache. Charlie shuffled awkwardly forward, his matted coat covered in dirt, and his unkempt mane only added to the crowd's mockery. Jacob felt a fire ignite inside him. This was the moment he had waited for. "Who wants to take home this unique little horse?" the auctioneer said with a smirk, clearly feeding off the crowd's reaction. "Starting bid is just $5. Jacob's hand shot up again without hesitation. "I'll bid $5, he shouted, his voice ringing out loud enough to catch everyone's attention. The laughter grew louder as some members of the crowd glanced at him in disbelief. But he didn't care. For him, this was about something bigger than appearances. $5. Do I hear 10? The auctioneer's voice was smooth but mocking, like he was trying to coax more money from those who thought it was amusing to make fun of Charlie. 10. A large man called out from the back of the crowd. He stood confidently with a smug grin on his face, a stark contrast to Jacob's smaller, anxious figure. Jacob's heart sank for a moment as he realized how serious this would get. But then he thought about Charlie waiting for someone to believe in him, just like Jacob wanted someone to believe in him. 15, he shouted with newfound courage. The auctioneer looked surprised, but quickly regained his composure. $15. Do I hear 20? He scanned the crowd eagerly. No one responded immediately, and for a brief moment, hope flickered in Jacob's chest. He couldn't let this slip away now, not after everything he had felt standing by Charlie's side amidst all that laughter. "I'll go 20, he called out again, heart racing. To his utter astonishment, silence filled the air as no one dared to bid higher than him. The auctioneer hesitated for a moment before announcing with a jubilant tone, "Sold, to the brave young man in front." Cheers erupted from some while others simply laughed at what they saw as an odd choice. But none of that mattered to Jacob. He had done it. He had won Charlie against all odds. With tears of joy welling up in his eyes, Jacob rushed forward as Charlie was led to him. He reached out gently and placed a comforting hand on Charlie's neck, sensing that this scruffy horse would finally know love and belonging, even if it started with just $5 and a boy who believed in him. Jacob trotted home with Charlie by his side, a spring in his step and a huge smile plastered across his face. The journey felt almost magical. With each step, it was as if he and Charlie were already embarking on their first adventure together. The way the sun filtered through the trees, casting dancing shadows on the ground, made everything feel new and exciting. Despite the laughter and doubts from the auction crowd ringing in his ears, Jacob felt proud. He had saved Charlie, and that was all that mattered. However, upon arriving home, the excitement began to fade as reality set in. Jacob's parents were in the kitchen when they heard the sounds of hooves clattering against the pavement. His mother poked her head out first, followed by his father, who wore an expression of surprise mixed with confusion. "Jacob, what is that?" his mother exclaimed, her eyes widening as she took in the sight of Charlie. "It's my horse. His name is Charlie," Jacob said eagerly, unable to contain his joy. He hurried over to attach a lead rope to Charlie's halter. His father walked closer for a better look, but frowned when he noticed the horse's scruffy coat and unkempt mane. "Is this some kind of joke? Do you really think this is a good choice?" he asked in a tone heavy with disbelief. "He's not ugly," Jacob insisted defensively. "Charlie just needs some love. I know we can help him." "It's not about being ugly or beautiful," his mother chimed in gently. "But do you realize how much work it takes to care for a horse? And what about space? We barely have enough room for our garden." Jacob felt a wave of frustration rise inside him. "But you don't understand. He deserves a chance just like anyone else," he said vehemently, feeling tears prickling at the corners of his eyes. "He was treated poorly at the auction, and no one wanted him." His father crossed his arms, still skeptical but softening slightly at Jacob's passion. "Son, we want what's best for you," he replied carefully. "But we need to think this through. Having a horse isn't easy." Despite their disapproval, Jacob knew deep down that Charlie was special. He envisioned days spent grooming him under the warm sun, exploring meadows together, and forming an unbreakable bond based on trust and understanding. Charlie might not be pretty on the outside, but Jacob saw beauty within him, an unwavering spirit waiting to shine if given the opportunity. "I can take care of him. I'll do everything possible," Jacob pleaded desperately. "I can clean his stall. I can feed him hay every day. I just need you to give us a chance." After several tense moments filled with silence as they exchanged glances between each other and then back at Jacob and Charlie, his mother finally sighed heavily and looked back at him with a mix of hesitation and affection. "All right," she said carefully. "We'll give it a try, but you must promise to take responsibility." The relief washed over Jacob like sunshine after rain. He beamed up at Charlie, who seemed to sense their approval too, his big brown eyes reflecting hope. Thank you so much," Jacob shouted joyfully before giving Charlie a gentle pat on his neck. As he led Charlie into their backyard for the first time, Jacob couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning of something truly incredible for both of them. A journey where they would find acceptance and friendship against all odds. As the days passed, Jacob settled into a routine with Charlie that filled his heart with joy. He woke up early each morning, eager to care for his new friend. The sun would peek over the horizon, casting a warm golden glow across the yard as Jacob rushed to the barn. He'd open the door, and Charlie would nicker softly, his brown eyes bright with curiosity and a hint of mischief. Jacob took pride in grooming Charlie, carefully brushing out the tangles in his mane and cleaning the dirt from his coat. At first, it was challenging. Charlie was skittish and didn't trust easily. When Jacob approached with the brush, Charlie would sometimes step back, wary of the boy who had claimed him. But Jacob was patient and gentle, whispering soft words of encouragement as he worked. "Easy, buddy. Jacob would say soothingly, letting Charlie sniff his hand before slowly bringing the brush closer. Gradually, Charlie learned to trust him, and their bond began to grow. With every stroke of the brush, Jacob felt like he was not just cleaning Charlie's coat, but also washing away the doubts and fears that had clung to him since the auction. Every afternoon after school, Jacob would lead Charlie out to the nearby meadow where they could explore together. The field was filled with wildflowers that danced in the breeze, and Jacob loved watching Charlie trot around, his scruffy mane flowing behind him like a flag of freedom. In those moments, it didn't matter how Charlie looked. All that mattered was the joy they shared in each other's company. Jacob found himself talking to Charlie about everything, the ups and downs of school, his dreams of adventure, and even his loneliness. In return, Charlie would listen intently, occasionally nudging Jacob with his nose as if to say he understood. This newfound friendship was something Jacob had never experienced before. It felt as if Charlie could hear the words left unspoken in his heart. As time went on, Jacob learned more about caring for a horse. He read books on horse care and watched videos online. He discovered how to feed Charlie the right amounts of hay and grains, how to recognize when Charlie was happy or uncomfortable, and even how to clean his hooves properly. Each new skill built not only Charlie's trust, but also Jacob's confidence in himself. One sunny afternoon, while brushing Charlie in the yard, Jacob noticed something remarkable. As he ran his fingers through Charlie's coat, he began to see past the scruffiness. He realized that beneath the dirt and rough appearance was a beautiful spirit, a horse with a kind heart ready to shine if given the chance. The bond between them deepened as they spent countless hours together. They formed an understanding that went beyond words. Jacob found solace in Charlie's presence, while Charlie flourished under Jacob's care. The world outside their little bubble faded away. It became just them against any judgment or doubt. Jacob knew that some might still see Charlie as the ugly horse, but all that mattered to him was their connection. With each passing day, they transformed each other's lives. Charlie found love and acceptance, while Jacob discovered bravery and friendship. Together, they were proving that true beauty lies not in appearances, but in the love shared between a boy and his horse. As the days turned into weeks, Jacob and Charlie settled into their routine. But something extraordinary began to unfold. Jacob noticed strange occurrences that defied explanation. At first, he thought he was imagining things, but soon he realized that Charlie was not just an ordinary horse. He possessed unexpected talents that would astonish both Jacob and their community. One sunny afternoon, while they were practicing in the meadow, Jacob decided to try something new. He had read about horses performing tricks and thought, why not? With a soft voice and excited energy, he encouraged Charlie to try simple commands like walking in circles and moving forward. To Jacob's surprise, Charlie responded almost instantly, following his lead with an enthusiasm that made Jacob laugh. "Good boy, Charlie," Jacob exclaimed as the horse trotted gracefully in response. It seemed as if Charlie was reveling in the attention. His big brown eyes sparkled with joy. What began as basic training quickly evolved into something incredible. Before long, Charlie was not only walking in circles, but also learned to bow his head and even trot over small jumps made from hay bales. Word of Charlie's newfound abilities spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Curious neighbors peeked over fences and gathered at the edge of Jacob's yard to watch this so-called ugly horse do things they never expected. Children who once laughed at Charlie now stood wide-eyed in amazement as they witnessed him perform tricks. The laughter had transformed into cheers and applause. Jacob's heart swelled with pride as he watched Charlie thrive under the spotlight. Each time someone gasped or clapped, it felt like a victory for both of them, proof that beauty could indeed be found in unexpected places. Encouraged by this newfound attention, Jacob began to plan a small show for the community. In preparation for the event, they practiced every day after school. Jacob taught Charlie more tricks: how to spin in circles, shake his head yes and no, and even dance a little jig that made everyone laugh. The bond between boy and horse deepened further. Their communication became effortless, as if they could read each other's thoughts. The day of the show arrived with excitement buzzing in the air. Neighbors filled the yard, chairs set up under shady trees where families gathered to watch. Jacob stood nervously behind Charlie, who snorted eagerly, ready to impress. With a deep breath, Jacob called out the first command. "Charlie, let's show them what you can do." He pointed dramatically as Charlie spun in a circle on cue. The crowd erupted in cheers and laughter, egging them on as they moved from one trick to another. But then came the moment that left everyone speechless. As Jacob instructed Charlie to jump over a series of small hay bales, something incredible happened. Charlie soared gracefully over each one, as if he were a majestic steed, rather than the scruffy horse everyone had mocked just weeks before. Gasps filled the air, followed by thunderous applause. In that moment, every laugh from the auction seemed like a distant memory. Jacob grinned from ear to ear as he realized that not just Charlie's abilities were shining through, but also their story of friendship. A story of resilience against judgment, and an undeniable bond that had transformed both their lives forever. As the show ended with many cheers and claps for Charlie, Jacob knew this was only the beginning of something even bigger. An adventure together where they would continue to defy expectations and discover new wonders side by side. As word spread about Charlie's impressive tricks, the small town quickly became captivated by the once overlooked horse. Every time Jacob and Charlie practiced in the meadow, more townspeople gathered, drawn by curiosity and excitement. Children peered through fences, and adults parked their cars nearby just to catch a glimpse of this unique duo. Jacob could hardly believe the crowds that formed around his yard. What had started as simple practice sessions transformed into something magical, as people began to cheer and shout encouragement during each of Charlie's performances. The boy and his horse quickly became local celebrities. Whispers of, "Did you see that horse jump?" or "Charlie can bow now," floated through the air like confetti. At first, Jacob was shy about the attention, still feeling a bit like an outsider despite his newfound companionship with Charlie. However, he soon realized that he had created something special. Together, they were defying expectations. Each day felt like a new adventure. He reveled in watching the amazement on people's faces when Charlie spun or danced. It was a heartwarming sight to see their smiles transform not just into admiration, but also acceptance. One afternoon, while practicing for an even bigger show at the town fair, Jacob noticed how Charlie seemed to respond to the growing crowd with more energy. It was as if he understood how much people were rooting for him. Each time someone clapped or called out his name, Charlie performed even better, his confidence soaring with every cheer. Feeling inspired by their success, Jacob decided it was time to organize a small exhibition at the local community center. The perfect place to showcase Charlie's talents before an even larger audience. He spent weeks preparing for the event, making colorful posters and spreading the word across town. Neighbors who had once doubted both him and Charlie now offered assistance. Some even helped with setting up the arena for the performance. The day of the exhibition arrived with a buzz of excitement in the air. Townspeople filled every seat inside the community center. There were families with children bouncing in their seats, and friends chatting eagerly about what they expected to see from Jacob and Charlie. As Jacob stood backstage with Charlie before their entrance, nerves fluttered in his stomach like butterflies. He whispered words of encouragement into Charlie's ear. "We can do this, buddy. Just be yourself," he said firmly. When it was finally time for them to perform, Jacob led Charlie out into the spotlight amidst roaring applause that sent shivers down his spine. The energy in the room was electric as he called out commands for each trick they had practiced so many times before. Again and again, Charlie amazed everyone as he executed each command flawlessly, twirling gracefully in circles, shaking his head yes and no, even performing backflips that left spectators gasping in disbelief. Laughter erupted when he pretended to dance on two legs, a silly jig that made both kids and adults clap along. The atmosphere shifted from mere curiosity to genuine appreciation. They were no longer seeing an ugly horse, but rather a talented performer who brought joy wherever he went. In those moments filled with laughter and cheers echoing around them, Jacob realized how far they had come together, from isolated underdogs to beloved entertainers. By the end of their performance together, as thunderous applause rang out through every corner of the hall, Jacob knew that not only had they captured hearts, but changed perceptions in ways he had never imagined possible before finding true friendship in each other's company. Together, they had woven a story of triumph over judgment, an unforgettable tale that would echo through their little town forevermore. With each passing day, Jacob and Charlie's bond grew stronger as they practiced their tricks. Their performances at the community center had earned them admiration, yet Jacob felt a burning desire to prove to everyone that Charlie was more than just a performer. He was capable of greatness in ways people never expected. Inspired by their success and emboldened by the support from newfound friends, Jacob made a bold decision. He would enter Charlie in the upcoming local horse competition. The announcement of the competition sent a buzz through town. Excitement filled the air as families prepared to showcase their prized horses. Jacob could see beautiful stallions and elegant mares being groomed to perfection, and doubts started creeping into his mind. What if Charlie didn't fit in among all those stunning horses? What if they laughed again? But then he remembered everything they had achieved together, the way Charlie had surprised everyone with his talents, and he shook off those fears. As soon as he announced his plans to enter Charlie, Jacob's friends and the townspeople who had come to admire their performances rallied around him with encouragement. "You can do it, Jacob. Show them what Charlie can do," shouted one neighbor. This confidence fueled Jacob's determination. He was ready to take on the challenge. In preparation for the competition, Jacob worked tirelessly with Charlie. They practiced daily at the barn and meadow, refining their tricks and working on new ones that would leave the judges amazed. Jacob introduced obstacles like cones and small jumps to simulate what they might face during the event. Each time Charlie successfully completed a new task, Jacob's heart soared with pride, knowing that they were truly becoming a team. The day of the competition finally arrived, bright and clear. A sense of nervous energy buzzed in Jacob's stomach as he led Charlie through the bustling fairgrounds. Colorful banners fluttered overhead, and the sound of laughter mixed with excited chatter filled the air. Horses pranced alongside their handlers, beautifully groomed and adorned with ribbons that shone in the sunlight. Jacob's heart raced as he took Charlie to the staging area where other competitors gathered. As they approached, whispers began to circulate among spectators about this odd-looking horse preparing to compete against such exquisite animals. Despite this, Jacob stood tall. He wouldn't let fear hold him back now. When it was finally their turn to perform, Jacob clutched the reins tightly, reminding himself how far they had come together. He took a deep breath before leading Charlie into the arena amidst curious stares and whispers from the audience. "Okay, buddy," he whispered softly as they entered under the bright lights. "Let's show them what we've got." With confidence bubbling inside him, Jacob called out commands for each trick they had perfected. Spins, bows, and even a jump over a series of hay bales that left spectators gasping in awe. To his astonishment, Charlie executed every command flawlessly, his scruffy mane dancing behind him like a banner of pride. As applause erupted around them, Jacob felt his heart swell with joy, not just for themselves, but for every moment that brought them here. The laughter at the auction seemed like faint echoes now drowned out by cheers celebrating their triumph. But then came a moment that truly took everyone by surprise. As Jacob finished up their routine with a final flourish, Charlie jumped gracefully over an unsuspecting flower pot that had been placed unknowingly in their path. Gasps filled the arena as jaws dropped at this unexpected display of skill. They left everything behind, the whispers of doubt and judgment, and transformed them into cheers of encouragement instead. In that unforgettable moment, under bright lights surrounded by clapping hands and smiles all around them, Jacob realized that they hadn't just participated in a competition. They had set forth on an incredible journey, proving their worth against all odds. When it was time for winners to be announced later that evening, prizes were awarded based on traditional beauty alone. But in Jacob's heart, he knew that nothing could top what they had accomplished together. A story woven from resilience and friendship would forever echo beyond any trophy or ribbon received that day. The day of the competition dawned bright and clear, an auspicious start filled with high hopes and excitement. Jacob woke early, his heart pounding with both nerves and anticipation. As he prepared Charlie for the big day, the sunlight streamed through the barn windows, casting warm rays across the dusty floor. Jacob gently brushed Charlie's coat until it gleamed, whispering words of encouragement as they both prepared to face the crowd. The fairgrounds bustled with energy when they arrived. Colorful banners flapped vigorously in the gentle breeze, while families set up picnic blankets and friends gathered in clusters, sharing laughter and stories about their horses. Everywhere Jacob looked, horses pranced proudly alongside their handlers. Glossy coats shone bright in the sun, tails flicked effortlessly, and their powerful legs moved with grace. Each horse seemed to be a magnificent athlete, ready for competition. Jacob felt a flutter of doubt in his stomach as he watched the elegant stallions and beautiful mares strut past him. Some were adorned with ribbons and flowers, others flaunted shiny saddles that sparkled like jewels under the sun. He felt small next to them as he led Charlie, who eagerly trotted beside him but lacked the polished look of the other competitors. "Don't worry, buddy," Jacob said softly, patting Charlie's neck to comfort him. "We may not look like everyone else, but we have something special." The announcer called for competitors to gather at the staging area shortly after. Excitement spread through the crowds as they began to cheer for their favorites. Jacob felt his heart race again when he realized it was almost time for them to perform. He glanced at Charlie's eager expression and remembered all their hard work. The long hours spent practicing tricks in their backyard, building a bond based on trust and understanding. In that moment, Jacob knew it didn't matter if they won or lost. What mattered was showing everyone Charlie's true spirit. As they entered the arena under bright lights surrounded by boisterous applause from family and friends alike, Jacob felt a rush of adrenaline course through him. He called out commands as he had practiced, spins, bows, trotting over obstacles. The crowd erupted each time Charlie executed a trick flawlessly. Every applause lifted Jacob's confidence higher as they danced together. It was proof that perseverance could yield amazing results. But amid cheers and clapping hands came something unexpected. Just as they finished demonstrating their impressive routine with flair, a jump over a makeshift hurdle made from hay bales, Charlie suddenly spotted something shiny in the corner of the arena that caught his attention. Instead of becoming distracted or losing focus as many feared might happen during competitions, Charlie maintained composure and galloped over gracefully to investigate while maintaining his elegance. Gasps filled the air as spectators watched in awe at how quickly Charlie adapted. It showcased not just his talent, but also his cleverness. Cheers grew louder when Jacob encouraged Charlie back into their rhythm without missing a beat. By now, every whisper of doubt had vanished. People were no longer yawning or judging based on appearances, but rather cheering loudly for this unique horse who had captured hearts on that remarkable day in front of an audience who saw beyond mere beauty. When finally it was time for winners to be announced later in the afternoon, the results seemed secondary compared to what they had achieved together. A powerful moment where learning came through friendship, far outweighing anything else that could ever be measured against ribbons displayed or trophies won. As applause erupted again, around them long after they completed scoring high marks on skills, it marked more than just yet another day competing out there. It was an unforgettable chapter transforming lives forever through companionship forged against any obstacles faced together faithfully along this wild ride of adventure into new horizons ahead. As the announcer called for Charlie and Jacob to take their turn, the weight of expectation filled the air. Jacob felt his heart race. He could see the other competitors' polished horses and experienced riders ready to impress the judges with smooth performances. But as he guided Charlie into the arena, he took a deep breath and reminded himself of their journey together. "Remember, buddy," Jacob whispered softly, giving Charlie a reassuring pat on the neck. "No matter what happens out there, we've come so far together. Just be yourself." As he looked into Charlie's big brown eyes, he saw a reflection of all their shared moments. The long hours spent practicing in the meadow, gradually building trust and understanding. That bond, they both knew, was what truly mattered. The audience cheered as they entered the ring, but Jacob's nerves began to fade into excitement when he saw familiar faces in the crowd, friends and neighbors who had watched them grow. In that moment, it didn't feel like just a competition. It felt like a celebration of everything they had accomplished together. Standing at center stage, surrounded by expectant eyes, Jacob focused entirely on Charlie. He called out their first command confidently, "Charlie, let's show them your spin." He watched proudly as Charlie executed a perfect turn. Wrinkles of concentration formed on his face while he twirled gracefully in response to Jacob's command. With each successful trick, turns, bows, and quick trots, Jacob felt his worries dissipate. Instead of emphasizing competition or validation from anyone else, he relished each small victory alongside Charlie in front of an audience that had initially doubted them both. But just as they approached the big jump, the highlight of their routine, an errant breeze sent a flurry of leaves cascading onto the track. Charlie hesitated slightly at the sudden distraction, while Jacob felt his stomach drop. Would this be where everything fell apart? Doubts flickered in his mind like wildfire. Then Jacob remembered why they were here. Not for glory or trophies, but for being true to themselves. "It's okay, Charlie," he encouraged loudly over the noise of shifting leaves and rustling branches. "You can do this. Just focus on my voice." In that pivotal moment, trusting his instincts came naturally. It was about love rather than fear. With renewed confidence from Jacob's unwavering support echoing in his ears, Charlie took a deep breath and without hesitation leaped over the obstacle with remarkable agility. The crowd gasped collectively before erupting into thunderous applause and cheers. Their performance flowed seamlessly after that remarkable jump. They finished strong with one final flourish that wowed everyone watching. As Jacob rode alongside Charlie toward the exit of the arena under loud, admiring applause from family and spectators alike, his earlier anxieties faded completely away, replaced instead by jubilance shared between boy and horse, who had dared challenge preconceived notions about strength hidden within bonds crafted from determination rather than fear or judgment. Together, they proved their worth beyond mere aesthetics. It spoke volumes to those watching, showcasing not only remarkable talent, but also resilience against adversity. Their story, written through acts performed seamlessly as partners working side by side, always embracing authenticity above all else, found often hidden underneath appearances alone. When they left the arena behind, hand in hand, one last time that day, with hearts swelling high against successes earned through genuine friendship, Jacob realized triumph wasn't solely reserved for winning awards. It was having come alive along such an extraordinary journey, rich in memories together, solidified forevermore, etched vividly against time. As Jacob and Charlie completed their dazzling performance, the energy in the arena intensified, and the crowd erupted with deafening applause. Every gasp, every cheer, showcased the incredible transformation that had occurred. Charlie, once considered ugly, was now stealing the spotlight with his unexpected grace and charm. Jacob could hardly contain his joy. He felt as if they had already won something far more significant than any ribbon. After they finished, as they made their way out of the arena, Jacob glanced at Charlie and saw a sparkle in his big brown eyes. "You did it, buddy. You showed everyone what you're made of," Jacob exclaimed, pride swelling within him. They both soaked in the atmosphere, filled with cheers and laughter, knowing they had created unforgettable moments together. But then came the final segment of the competition, the announcement of winners. The announcer began listing off categories like Best Trick and Most Unique, and Jacob's heart raced each time he heard applause erupt from other competitors being recognized. With every beat of his heart, Jacob felt a growing sense of hope mixed with disbelief. How could they possibly compete against such polished horses? As the announcer concluded with a flourish, mentioning how difficult it was to judge given the talent present that day, Jacob leaned forward slightly in anticipation. "And now for our grand champion. This award goes to the pair whose bond shone through their performance today, a true embodiment of trust and teamwork." Jacob held his breath expectantly while glancing at Charlie, who had pranced beside him like a proud partner. "Please, let it be us," Jacob whispered softly under his breath. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer continued dramatically, pausing for effect, "the Grand Champion Award goes to none other than Jacob and Charlie." The crowd erupted into thunderous applause, and shocked gasps filled the air as Jacob stood frozen for a moment before a wave of elation washed over him. He couldn't believe it. Cheers rang out among friends and family as he realized they had truly won. Not just an award, but also respect from people who had once doubted them. "Come on," Jacob urged Charlie excitedly as they stepped forward to receive their ribbon adorned with bright colors that shimmered under sunlight, a symbol of their achievement together. As they accepted it amidst cheers from townsfolk gathered around them, he couldn't help but feel that this recognition was testament to everything they had persevered through. With tears of joy glistening in his eyes, Jacob hugged Charlie tightly. "We did this together," he exclaimed. The crowd joined in with joyful laughter at his enthusiasm. It didn't matter where Charlie ranked among lavish steeds. He'd captured hearts simply by being authentically himself. That day marked more than just a victory in a competition. It showcased how love and determination transcended appearances or conventional standards of beauty. It proved that friendships forged through rejection could ignite real change, not just within themselves, but also within everyone who witnessed their journey. As they left the arena, triumphant hand in hoof, under radiant sunshine breaking through clouds above them, Charlie trotting alongside proudly, Jacob realized that together they were embarking on an exciting new chapter filled with wonderment ahead. No longer defined by appearances, but rather empowered by deep connections formed along this remarkable adventure. Shared together, side by side, always unyielding against any obstacles encountered along life's pathways before them. As the applause continued to echo in the fairgrounds, Jacob stood with Charlie, feeling a mix of elation and disbelief. Their journey had been filled with challenges, but now they were celebrated not just for their victory, but for the bond they had formed. In that moment, Jacob realized something profound. True friendship goes beyond appearances and accolades. It thrives on understanding, kindness, and acceptance. Walking away from the arena with his ribbon shimmering in hand, Jacob glanced down at Charlie, who trotted proudly beside him. It dawned on him that their story was not solely about proving others wrong or chasing trophies. It was about discovering the beauty of what lay within each other. Charlie had shown him that even those considered ugly could possess remarkable talents and a heart full of spirit. As they made their way through throngs of congratulatory neighbors and friends, Jacob reflected on how far they had come since that fateful day at the auction. No longer just an awkward boy and a scruffy horse, they were now partners who had faced judgment together and transformed it into admiration. With every trick Charlie performed during the competition, he had not only won over the crowd, but also changed perceptions about what it meant to be deserving of love and companionship. In the days that followed the competition, Jacob found himself increasingly aware of how he interacted with others, both humans and animals alike. Inspired by Charlie's resilience, he began to embrace kindness wherever he went. He learned to appreciate people for their unique qualities rather than judging them based on superficial appearances. The lessons imparted by Charlie's fearless spirit resonated deeply within him. He wanted to carry that same message into his everyday life. Jacob now actively sought out opportunities to lend a helping hand or offer words of encouragement to those around him. He noticed classmates at school who, like him at one point, felt isolated or overlooked. Whether they were shy students trying to fit in or kids struggling with confidence. Just as he had once defended Charlie against mockery, Jacob found himself speaking up for those whose voices were often drowned out. His friendship with Charlie also blossomed further as they engaged in community events together, visiting schools to demonstrate tricks and talk about the importance of acceptance and empathy. Each time Jacob shared their story, he saw how it inspired others to look beyond appearances and value relationships based on kindness rather than judgment. In quiet moments spent at home after school with Charlie nestled nearby, Jacob would reflect on how special their bond truly was. He cherished every grooming session under the fading sunlight as much as each dazzling performance in front of crowds. They had created memories together, stitched from laughter, trust, shared adventures, all woven into the fabric of their lives. As seasons changed and new adventures awaited them both ahead, Jacob understood better than ever that true friendship is not just found. It is built through compassion and connection. together with Charlie by his side, whom he loved fiercely despite first impressions, they would continue challenging themselves and others' perceptions, while showing everyone what genuine camaraderie looks like. Hand in hoof, they forged an unbreakable path forward, filled with dreams waiting to be embraced. Not merely for titles won, but ultimately for celebrating life along this incredible journey where acceptance reigned supreme above all else. As Jacob reflected on the incredible journey he had taken with Charlie, he realized how much his life had changed. The once lonely boy, plagued by feelings of isolation and inadequacy, had blossomed into a confident young man brimming with joy and compassion. Thanks to Charlie's transformation from an overlooked horse to a beloved champion, Jacob understood the profound lessons that had emerged along the way. Every morning felt brighter as Jacob tended to Charlie, their routines infused with laughter and camaraderie. They would spend time wandering through meadows, sharing little adventures that brought them closer, while also drawing in new friends. Soon, other kids from the neighborhood began to show interest in Charlie and what he could do. They brought carrots and apples to the barn, giggling excitedly as they offered treats to this scruffy horse who had won their hearts. Jacob was amazed at how easily friendships blossomed around him as he embraced Charlie's uniqueness. Kids who once seemed intimidating or aloof were now keen to join him during practice sessions where they could watch Charlie leap gracefully over jumps or bow on command. In sharing these moments, Jacob not only found companionship, but also learned the importance of inclusivity. How welcoming others into his world enriched their lives just as much as it did for him. After witnessing firsthand how judgments based on external appearances melted away, Jacob often remembered the initial doubts he'd faced. Those whispers of disdain that followed him into the auction halls were now replaced by admiration and respect from children and adults alike. He discovered that kindness could break down barriers and foster connections among even the most unlikely friends. At school, Jacob became an advocate for those who were shy or felt out of place. He would stand up for classmates who faced ridicule and included them in games, just as they had once included him. Inspired by Charlie's resilience and spirit during their journey together, Jacob cultivated a community rooted in acceptance. One day, while showcasing some tricks at a local event aimed at promoting kindness in animals, Jacob noticed something remarkable. Everyone was captivated, not just by Charlie's talents, but by his joyful personality too. People rallied around the story of the boy who saw beauty in an ugly horse. It inspired countless others to evaluate their own perceptions of worth beyond superficial attributes. Through Charlie, Jacob had sparked a conversation about embracing diversity and appreciating each individual's unique gifts. As seasons changed and new adventures awaited them both, Jacob felt more connected than ever. Not only with Charlie, but with those surrounding him, whose lovely stories illuminated the tapestry of life around them. He often marveled at how far they had traveled together since that first moment of connection at the auction. Hand in hoof, they shared another adventure. Therein lay thriving relationships, sprouting through acts of kindness, exchanged daily, amidst laughter, swaying like trees beneath cool breezes, blowing past bright sunlit days, transforming one another's lives forevermore. In nurturing their bond further still through each milestone achieved together, the triumphs celebrated accompanied by struggles endured gracefully. Jacob fully realized that true friendship reaches far beyond faces seen outwardly. It digs deep into understanding unseen within others, showcasing richness, waiting patiently underneath layers, waiting for compassion, granted boldly following light-hearted journeys, awaiting discovery woven splendidly across remarkable paths, both shared hand in hoof, forward to uncharted horizons, awaiting unveiling just ahead.